Jason's in there twice.
You're on.
I'm probably blinding the thing anyway.
Well, I was a bit, it was a great big light, and I didn't know what it was.
All right, 7:01, we call the budget board meeting to order Wednesday, April 15th. Here we are at the MLD School Library. Approval of the agenda.
I need to add a couple things, or at least be able to explain a couple things. Well, if I could, I want to talk about stuff for a minute, and then I want to ask some questions about capital. I guess it's two things that I want to.
We're gonna add those as 8 and 9 on new business.
Yeah, 1 and 2. I have more questions than anything else, so.
Will we approve as made? Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right. Approval of the minutes from April 6th.
John, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
doing it. I mean, it's just, it's just
Take a
absolute.
minute for the planning board?
Nah, he tried to get out of it with the budget board.
I'm looking for somebody. I move to approve it written.
Nothing's changed since you sent it out, right, John?
Sorry?
Nothing's changed since you sent it out, right?
No, same copy.
All right. Got a motion on the table to accept.
Second.
And motion made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, that motion passes. Old business, transfer station. You got some
Okay.
additional information, Jack?
Yeah. You guys know I don't know what I'm doing, right? I mean, that's really important for you to understand right off the bat, because I didn't cover things every 5 minutes that surprised me, and this one was another one of those. Remember I talked to you about the canister needing, repair, and Roger and I looked it over, we looked at the door. If you go up, you'll notice the bottom ridge, the stuff's going right off the bottom. When they transport it, they have to wrap it, so the stuff doesn't fall out. So it really does need repair. And I said, talked about, well, this is how you can fund it, you can, take it out of the transfer station reserve account as an option. Because it's about a $5,000 rebuild from what they tell me. Well, I got a bill a couple weeks ago, as I often do, and I looked at the bill, it was $4,800 or something for canister repair. I said, well, we got right on that real fast, and I thought, this is great, Come to find out it was the last canister repair.
We did.
Not this one, okay? So, and I went through and checked and pulled, and you had already agreed that was gonna be paid out of the reserve account. So you don't have any money in the reserve account to pay the next one. So the question is, it raises the question of that transfer station budget needs to have that money in it for the canister repair. I mean, it's a good thing, you paid the last one, but I still thought you had, options. All right? You got a lot, so I'm gonna try to go as quickly through some of these as I can, so that we get the time we need. So that's on the resolves, that option for us. I paid the bill, and it'll come out of your reserve account. You got another one to do?
But we gotta fund a reserve account in this budget again.
Yeah,
But
that, that's a question I
Yeah.
got down the road, but you're actually gonna, you have two liabilities here. Fund the reserve account and pay for the can. For the new can to be replaced.
We paid for the one that's already been repaired, and we've got this other one that's gonna have to be repaired.
Right.
So we fund a reserve account for $5,000 to do that, then doesn't that take?
You can do it that way. You
Right.
could put it in the reserve account instead of the public works budget,
Right.
simply take it out of the reserve account.
Mhm.
And that'll
Yeah.
be,
And then you're gonna have zero in the reserve account. And that's an option, I mean, that's a good option, actually. But,
Yeah, 'cause we don't use that for much else that I can.
no, I think that Roger said that's really what it was.
I can recall that, John, that we've used it for the last couple of years.
Right.
And this is the last can that you'll have to fix. You have to buy them from now on. From,
Right.
that's opinion, by the way, but Roger says the new cans, the metal isn't, it's just not worth fixing.
Do we know what the difference of the cost is between the new can and the repair?
Roger does, and I can't tell you, Phil, exactly, but I asked Roger that, I said, why don't we just, buy a new one? And he said, well, first of all, this old one fixed will last longer than the new ones. I remember that discussion.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Right, because he said, the new ones are just junk, But I don't know the dollar figure, but I do remember where he clearly stated, we'll get more life out of our repaired one than we would out of a new one.
Any chance of renting a can for
No.
less money?
I don't know. Don't know. That would be a Stu Axelrod question. You could certainly ask him that. He and I are still going back and forth on the contract, that I haven't, and the ball's in my court, so I think I'm not complaining about him, he's waiting for me, so. I'll ask Stu. All right, moving on.
Okay.
There is a school budget, and then there was an adjustment letter attached to it. They reduced it a little bit from, it was like a 3-day event, I got the budget, I got the letter, et cetera, so I just, at the moment right now, just give that to everybody, Selectmen got it, and I just passed it out tonight. I have extras here. That's why I stuck that on the agenda. If we keep going, we did the general assistance budget, but we never got to the social service piece. I've given you that tonight. Here, this is Wendy's department. She's the keeper of the social service component of the budget. Here are all of the backup letters and requests, some of them very eloquent. But there's a letter for every request on this list. And I'm now operating off that separate list that I passed out to you.
Interesting that some of these went down. Oh, wait a minute. That was the
I
one.
wasn't about to make copies of everything, but if you wanna just see them, pass them
Oh,
around.
I was looking at the wrong column.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, look at the last column.
Yeah, well, I was looking at the middle to the last.
Right,
and,
okay.
so-
Todd handled this with Wendy before I got here. I've had conversations with Wendy that requested for $5,800 if you fund the entire list. And then there's the one issue that came up at the Selectmen's meeting Monday night, because I didn't have any idea what to do with it. And that was a request from Southern Maine Memorial Cemetery that was outside of this normal social service. Outside of those requests, I guess is what I'm saying. Whereas, the veterans are reaching out to different municipalities, asking for contributions to the cemetery where they wanna continue to, do some work, and I brought it to the selectmen, and we decided, well, in 2 days, we're gonna meeting with everybody, so we'll take the time now to discuss it rather than tie up the selectmen's meeting.
At the Springfield Cemetery, or Springvale?
Yeah, do you have a copy, did I give you copies of the letter?
Yeah.
All right. I might not have given you.
This is my copy.
Oh, I got one
You
here.
got one? Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't skip somebody. It says annual, but I don't, in my eyes, it's not. I mean, if you wanna make a donation, I don't think you have to commit annually to it. And since we ask for annual financial support, but you don't do anything, I don't believe, annually automatically. I mean, that's usually not practice, that, you know, you look at your requests every year. You could add that to the list if you would like. If the money that you wanna donate, or you can write back and say, consider it another year.
So for the budget board members, it was there yesterday, Monday, but there had one individual from the audience that stood up and said, I would like for you to donate to this, because I plan on being buried there. After we kind of all said, you know, it doesn't affect the Rundle, and it doesn't.
So, you didn't put a timeline on that, though.
A good reason.
Yeah. Yes.
We brought up the point that we have our own veterans memorial in town that we maintain. I know it's different, but
And one thing, I don't think, they have any idea on how many, like, Arundel citizens are?
I know nothing, honestly, Sean, except what's in that letter.
Okay.
I didn't dig, we haven't had a lot of downtime, you know, lately, so. I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to handle it, I think, you know, I mean, I knew better, but I also knew that it was an add-on, you know, opportunity to what we had originally planned to present.
Even with you considering, it comes kind of late in the process here. And, you know, if anybody wanted to get an answer to your question, whether we have
Right.
Arundel citizens, veterans buried there, we got one person said, I'm going to be, whether there are others. I mean, if that were true, then my vote might be different, but right now, I mean,
And
I don't,
myself being a veteran and a member of the American Legion down in Kennebunkport, I know a lot of our members are buried locally. There may be one in Springvale. But I do think it's a little bit late in everything that we're doing right now, so if we had some additional time, information, I mean, this might be something that I'd be wholeheartedly to support next year, if we were able to have any additional information.
I don't wanna jump in, but why don't I just write them a letter and say that, you know, we appreciate the fact that they reached out to us and that, we'll keep it in the file for a request, you know, to be potentially included in next year's budget.
just ask them to get us some, you know, if they wanted to make a request, make it earlier in the process, so we can take some time to evaluate.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
The rest of the list is the list that I've I've really had been doing it a long time, we had this, like, for our first meeting, remember? You know, how, and then Wendy, but, it looks like it's a pretty standard list for you, and, the request is actually,
I would say we go with, we use the suggested amounts for all of these. I mean, some of them stayed flat, a couple of them asked for more, we went up just a little bit, but, you know.
But the bottom line is flat.
Yeah, yeah, the bottom line is flat, and I think that's good.
generally, are you all right with that? Okay. Moving on to town hall budget. That, the next handful of budgets are all put together in a packet for you with a little clip on. So, you made note of that, didn't you, Jason?
Yeah, I like the clip effect, Jack, that was nice. Here's a good touch.
You know, just wanted you to make sure you recognize that.
Thanks,
Do you need the clips back at the end of the night?
Well, I'm not really sure, because I know if you expect this twice in a row, you may not get it, so.
Is our budget going up because of the
Listen, this is all about Jason. Right, exactly. Jason expects me to knock the fell over before the night, and he may be right, so, you know. This one's got some interesting components to it. I'll try to go through it the best I can. Keep in mind that I learned this about, just slightly ahead of you on a lot of these things, but the electricity bill, many of these items are gonna be overdrawn according to the way we have outlined our expenditures this year so far. But we definitely need to increase the electricity. Some of these things were simply under budgeted or flatlined, and one of the reasons that one of the exercises that's happening now for me is I'm asking for a review of these lines before I bring them to you. Now, I could bury you with, a lot of data, and someday you may want spreadsheets that have a little bit more than what you have now, but before I was willing to say, okay, Todd suggested that we budget this for electricity, I asked for a review of that account, where we were, how it looked. So, and Lisa's done a good job. It's time consuming, particularly when the small person can go at it. It's a good exercise. Communications, I don't see anything there. Heating oil was a big discussion, and always is. You don't know it, it's dirt cheap right now, there's no question about it, but you're projecting 18 months, as you know, down the road, so, we're projecting 2,250 gallons, like, 250, and I don't know if that's to date, I didn't write good notes. But we also projected somewhere around 250 a gallon, and again, I don't know, who knows? But just so that you know that there's reasons behind some of this is the kind of, digging that we did, and when you get through digging, you still gas, to some degree, but at least we got at it a little bit. So if we're using 2,250 and we plan around 250 a gallon, that should give you your fuel line, and that doesn't change, but, see, I brought up the question, why don't we drop it? I figured you might, because, but that's the answer of why we stayed the same, because if I remember, the calculation came out to, almost 6,000, 5,800 or something like that. Advertising and printing, here again, that's somewhat of a guess from time to time. I didn't change anything that Todd put unless I had reason to. I guess is another way of expressing what I want to express. Because I figured in some cases, Todd probably had a better handle on it than I did. I'm not gonna read everything, but there is a change in the liability. We were going to adjust that, and I got, my notes may be old. Let me look and see, she left the 8,000, did she? Yeah, she did. The reason I brought that up to change it, I had suggested that we drop it, and she went through and reviewed it and said, no, it's gonna be pretty close to that, let's leave it, and I agreed.
Do we buy that through Cole Harrison too?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Just
you're gonna
a lot of
have,
money for that.
you're gonna have a bunch of bonding, like, cost this year. You bonded Todd, it's $300-400 or $200-300, and you bonded me, and you probably bond, the new town manager, and we're gonna bond, some temporary help while Lisa's out, because all of a sudden, I was driving yesterday and said, oh, we have to bond that person, So, there's nothing terribly dramatic there that I can give you. Postage, we just simply way over. We're projecting that you had budgeted $7,000 last year, I think it posted, is that right? I should have brought it a little bit. And Todd budgeted 84, and because I red flagged that in my money right off, but come to find out, we've already spent 82 something.
I wonder if a lot of that was school, didn't we do a couple of mass mailings for the whole renovation project way back in the spring or something?
We did any mass bills.
Tell you what, a lot of it is certified letters,
Yeah.
okay? I mean, the world is such that nobody dares to send anything unless it's traced, certified, stamped, and, whatever, and
What was it that we mass mailed?
that has certainly
Oh, we did a town hall,
kicked that price up.
we did like a correspondence feedback type thing.
Yeah, we did do that, to survey them.
That wouldn't be much fun.
We're currently $1,200 over right now, I don't say. That's a lot of postage, but when you mail something that's $6-7 an envelope, and it's not all that, but.
Well, some of the stuff we must recover, because I bet you some of it's tax lien notices, those types of things.
Yeah.
But that's all added on, and we get that revenue
This-
back when.
And I'll go through that postage meter, but yeah, we can collect some.
You collect some,
Yeah.
not everything, but some, yeah.
I hate to bring these kind of situations to you, but if I know we're $1,200 over, and I don't tell you that you need to probably consider adjusting, I'm not doing you any favors, you know what I mean? I'm just making it difficult for the next person and making it difficult for next year. And if you find out that you drop down and you're not anywhere close to this year, then that's when you go back and say, look, that was a bump year, and we'll bring it back down, But to deliberately say, oh, no, it won't happen again, I worry about that kind of, I mean, especially when you've got the data to back it up. Absolutely nobody knows what workplace safety is. It looks good because it's $50 and we left it in. But
It's a poster.
we put all out bulletin on that, nobody knows. I thought I had the answer. I thought it was the signs in the bathroom that said, you know,
Employees must
you
wash
have to
hands.
be an equal opportunity employer and whatever, and no, that's not it.
No, that's meeting with
That
reps.
comes in, that came out of another line, so, I don't know. It wasn't worth the effort to
You
deal
have
with it one way or
SDS
another.
sheets or something, that you recently hold those?
I don't know, the Department of Labor may have something to do
Yeah,
with
that's
that.
it.
Yeah,
Um,
it may need it in case somebody wants to know if we got it, you know?
Yeah,
We budget for it, we just don't know what it is, we budget for it.
Yeah, look, hey, the next one is interesting, and it's gonna bring up a discussion at the bottom of this list that I wanna get into when we get down through it, and that's computers. Repairs, we are spending a considerable amount of money repairing a lot of old equipment. And it's, you know, you've heard this story 100 times, you know, from probably every town manager I've owned, that you know, it starts to malfunction, and you call IT and you pay, and malfunction, you call IT and pay, and Lisa, for example, this morning waited over 20 minutes, you know, for a computer to, you know, to boot up, to get, you know, get her Trio software going, and she called the IT guy, because why wouldn't you, you know, and so that's a cost that is creeping up as you move forward.
So Jack, the stuff that we're fixing, what are we fixing? Are we,
What are we fixing?
yeah, what is it that we're,
Fixing the network, the software, not the software itself, but what do you call the servers, I guess is the right term.
Kind of like the hardware.
The brain, you know, the central brain,
yeah,
so it
Jack, would it be possible to lease the equipment with a maintenance contract included?
I don't know, you're doing copies, I know that,
Yeah,
you know.
instead of calling an
Yeah.
IT guy at probably $75 an hour every time something goes wrong.
That, I've never done it. But that doesn't mean that it's, they don't. I mean, I'm thinking of, at least copiers for years now. I mean, I don't even bother basically buying, you know, and we'll talk about that because we need one, but, I can certainly
I
look.
don't think, from what I've been seeing, I haven't seen anything in regards to computers leasing. Just because computers are so cheap, and even when you're getting the latest and greatest, within 6 months, it's already out of,
yeah, but
it's already considered antiquated.
there are plenty of, I don't know if it's plenty, but there are definitely companies that are leasing, they give you a refresh rate every 18 months or something like that. I know with our company, that's every 18 months, you get a new computer, new laptop, and they're leased. Of course, you know, we deal with hundreds and hundreds of computers, but, it's,
Yeah, well, my thought was that I figured somewhere there must be people who fix computers for a living. Computers themselves are not that expensive these days. Would somebody be willing to supply the computers and then give you an annual contract for maintenance, rather than calling
Who
up
do
every
we,
time something breaks
who do we
down?
deal with now for IT?
Kennebunk, the company, Kennebunk at the mall, the Ace Hardware complex.
Oh, yeah, customized computer design or something like that.
They're very good, I mean, you know, they come running, you call, and, you know, and, but it, I know the girls, and one of them on the front desk is just a nightmare, and, we had a discussion about it today, because, and Lisa backed off, because Lisa said, you know, mine is so slow, and they keep trying, lots of times they try to fix them remotely, as you know, they can do a lot of that. And they worked on it, and she was fussing, and we said, well, maybe we ought to get her a new one, and then the idea was to give that one to the front desk, and I said, no. You know, I mean, in my mind, if you already got one that's a problem child, you know, I mean, like you said, don't pass the buck, onto the front desk where that's another piece of equipment that they need, you know, on the spot. I mean, nothing is any maddening, them going in to get something registered and then, you can't do it because the computer's broken.
Have we tried running any, maintenance programs on them?
They have,
If they're old computers?
They have,
They
yeah.
have.
they cleanse them and they do this and then they do that. They're old and
How old are they?
you haven't had I don't know, but the girls were telling me dates and when they get this one and when they get that one, the ladies were telling me dates.
Those are cheap enough.
You haven't been on a real replacement plan. If I had the perfect world, we'd review all of those with the IT people, and we'd say, all right, this one's, life expectancy, and start putting together an automatic, replacement plan, so that you're not doing the reactionary,
Yeah.
response that you do now. Now you run it till it drops and then you scream, Anyway, that's that line, which brings us down to some bigger discussions, and that is, should we consider replacing a machine, which isn't so far in this. This was done a while ago, and, we could budget $629 and something for a new computer, and by the time you switched everything over and paid for the labor and all that, it's about a $900 purchase.
Well, if you got a computer that's,
Should we put that in? Yeah.
if you got a computer that's, 3-4 years old, that's, today's world, that's an antique.
Oh, they are.
Yeah,
They're older than that.
We ought to be looking to start at least upgrading.
Is our software that we use, is it Mac compatible or not?
Don't know. Trio compatible. That's all I hear about, Trio. It wouldn't be a bad idea to put $1,000 in there, in here for something to be purchased and replaced.
So,
Because you get nothing in here for that.
would that cut
basically.
down on the,
Repair?
yeah,
I don't know. That's a good question, but I honestly don't know.
How about number 3, Jack? Can we go over number 3 real quick? Because I think we could save money there.
Yeah,
Does that include fire department, the fire building? Is the town hall and fire building lumped together?
the guy,
It isn't the guy that we hired to clean?
yes,
Floors and stuff?
yeah, but I don't know if that price has both in it or not. The guy that we hired to clean does do very limited amount of work at the fire station, I heard.
I don't even know why he comes over. I don't,
Well,
I mean, that's why we have a crew there now.
yes, sir, understand. I'd revisit that too, down the road.
And if we could cut that number in half, that would buy a new computer,
I think 99% of that right there is town hall. I think he goes over and mops the floor once a month.
He mops the floors and empties the trash and cleans the sinks and scrubs the toilets, and it's like, I don't even know why you're coming, because we have 2 guys that sit here and do the same exact thing.
The whole subject of that needs to be looked at in the future. No matter what, you're gonna have to have some money to do something in cleaning, and I don't know if,
so the cleaning service is $3,300, $3,320
yeah,
a
it's
year.
$200, I think, $100 a week, I think that's what it is, if I signed the bills, I can't, I think it's every 2 weeks he gets $200. I think. was over Friday nights.
Well, the other thing that you mentioned a while back also is that the town hall definitely needs some,
Yeah,
you know, shutters are,
yeah.
Pretty bad.
Yeah. I'm being very careful.
Well-
No, I would expect that that will get looked at in a different plan put together, but regardless of what the plan is, yeah, there's money for it.
Well, I kind of go back to the computers and software. Trio is 8,200, Vision 5,350, Avnet 600. Those total up to 14,150. So the remaining 3,050, that's all going towards.
Odds and ends, repairs, odds and ends, and those are the major components of that 17 or 16,000, yes. And those are new figures, we updated those, because I didn't know if those were, you know, 2-year carryovers or 8-year carryovers.
so we ought to be able to find out, you know, when we make a trouble call and he comes in, we ought to be able to find out either from them or maybe we already have it, you know, what each of those calls are, right?
We do.
And then we ought to be able to look at it and say, geez, if it's her computer, if it's that computer, or if it's the server, and the server is another thing that, you know, that's not very cheap, but if we know that it's specifically one computer that happens a lot, then to me, why don't we just go and replace that computer?
Did they keep a record of that at all?
Yes. You get, the bills that we get are, I mean, they're a professional group, and they're detailed, I mean, they're like, you know, did this, did that, you know, replace this, parts and labor.
Did they make any recommendations about what you
I've
call-
never talked to them.
Oh,
Honestly, they're in and out, and I've never sat down and talked to them. I bet they would, because
yeah,
all I hear is that, you know, we're running antique equipment, but
When you got $3,000 there, the difference between what we're paying
That's-
software and the total IT budget, I mean, for that kind of money, with the exception of the server, you could probably buy everybody in town hall a new computer, and if it gets us out of the weekly, monthly maintenance, I think it might be a damn good investment.
one of the things that you have that's a little unusual, it just happens to be that way, so I'm not saying this negatively, is you have a lot of good employees, as you know, who do a lot for you, but we do not have real tech-oriented staff. I mean, and most organizations of 10 or 12 people today, there's always an IT, you know, a tech guru in a group, you know what I mean? I mean, it just seems that way in my life, that you go someplace and everybody goes, I don't know how to spell computer, and then one person says, I can do it, you know, and they can't. There's always that one person. We don't have anybody. We couldn't put those films on, you know, I mean, and we struggled and struggled and struggled to do that. I mean, I talked to you, John, about, you know, we don't have a lot of in-house talent. You know, the next person we hire may be a whiz-bang and can help a lot, but this particular crew isn't really, that's not their forte.
Not employed that way.
I had a gal in Watchet that could do more stuff than the company, you know, that we hired. I mean, that was, some of these young people can do a lot, but
so the 17.2 that's here, is that inclusive of purchasing a new computer, or that's just to keep the
No, this is-
shop running, huh?
that's just what we think we need
Projected if we didn't do anything else.
for stay status quo.
Mm.
You know, if you wanna put $1,000 in there, you put it under office equipment up above and, you know, see what, if it didn't mean you have to spend it, but if you got to that situation, you'd have some money for it. Wish I could be more specific, but I just,
So what was the $1,800 increase in and you probably said it, and I was just punching some numbers, but what was $1,800 increase in the office equipment and furnish?
That one is a new file cabinet, fireproof, that you have been replacing every year.
So that's what that $1,800
Right,
is?
there's a file cabinet, a new file cabinet for $1,800. Fireproof file, you've been replacing them upstairs. You wait long enough, they'll be downstairs.
Taking the involuntary
The more we put up there, the sooner they make it downstairs.
So, I mean, I'm more inclined to say leave that 17,200 alone, leave the other one alone, and go look and look at the records and use that extra money, the money that we've been paying for service, to see if it can buy a new computer. I mean,
You're still gonna need that money to set up the new computers. You're gonna have to transfer everything over to the new computers, so.
yeah. But, you know, that $17,200, there's $3,000 in there that is repairs, right? So, you know.
Basically, yeah.
What we think are repairs, so out of that 3,000, we take $900 out of it, and we use that $900 for a new computer and the software install.
One new computer. Is that what you're
At
saying?
least one, anyway. I mean, I think we gotta take a good look and see.
How many
What the
computers
failure
are
mode
in
is,
the
right?
town hall office?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's gotta be 6 anyway, plus yours, 7.
Well, I get confused because keyboards and stations are different, you know, some of them all. A lot of,
Jack, a computer has a screen and a keyboard in front of it.
not true.
And,
That's not true? No, that's not true. Some of those off-front ones are stations that all work off, I think, the mainframe.
Yeah, it's just keyboard and
I don't have one, Todd didn't have one, he has a laptop only, and his screen hooks up to the laptop. It's the only laptop in the whole complex. And nobody can use it, because if they do, then the town manager doesn't have, you know, anything. That may not be a bad thing, but. All right, we can do that, we can just,
that's just my opinion, I don't know.
I think we have funded for $1,000 and
put 1,000.
put 1,000 in there, and I think it'd be interesting to find out from the IT guys, you know, what they think about what we've got, and get a recommendation from them as to what you guys ought to be thinking about doing, and get into the.
We can do both, I mean, just
I'm
because you put
saying do
1,000
both.
in doesn't mean we're gonna go out and buy something on July 1st. So, you know, we can start a dialogue with people who are, and I'd be inclined to bring in, not the users, because I mean, everybody would like to have a new computer, right? I mean, we all would, but I'd bring in the people who have to work on it and say, look, this one's costing an arm and a leg, you know, this one's this and that one's that, and maybe develop a replacement.
That's, yeah.
These conversations like this are time consuming and sometimes not productive. It'd be nice to take out your 5-year plan and say,
Yeah. Do any of these software outfits like Trio have any kind of cloud application where instead of keeping the data on a very expensive server in the town hall, we could,
yes,
and that way if anything breaks down in the
Still
cloud,
there, yeah.
it's somebody else's problem to fix.
I believe there's some, and the reason I don't know to what extent, John, the reason I say there's some is because currently, right now, we're working with these IT people on trying to set Lisa up at home to operate it out of her house.
Oh, really?
And because she's gonna be out for an extended period of time, and some of that material is obtainable through the clouds, and some of it we're gonna have to have, just like remote operation, which you know you can do. I mean, you know, we can promote. So I think it's a little bit of both, but I don't know to what extent. I really don't. It took me a month to figure out what Trio was, because I was always used to Munis.
So, you know, take Tom's advice, we add $1,000, and we're gonna ask the new town manager to go put together a plan.
It really would, yeah, it's the way to go, to have a Bible, you know.
Getting a deputy treasurer sitting around for blocks of time, not being able to, that's awful.
And calling, you know, 1-800-HELP.
Yeah.
If it is
Yeah.
not always expensive, but it's, and
The
the time,
the admin side of the website, just shifted from, what is it, main.gov, or, not main.gov, gov, whatever the .gov website is that we've got. They just shifted to a cloud application a couple of months ago, and it's incredibly faster if you go on the admin side, using that administrative side compared with what it used to be. It's 5 times as fast. You don't have to sit there waiting for things to come up. And if you're talking, the only reason I mention it, if you're talking to these IT guys, I at least run it by them to see if anything like that could be done, because I think it might save buying a lot of expensive equipment, you know, for the town.
maybe once things slow down just a little bit, I can visit them and ask them if they, you know, to do a kind of a snapshot and develop something for us. I think that'd be a gift for you in the future, honestly,
Yeah.
so that you aren't sitting here guessing this and guessing that and trying to figure out what's this and what's that. You need a replacement plan and analysis of what you got.
So that's the office equipment that we had in there. Previously, we were estimating 2,800, we're gonna bump that up to 3,800 now.
That's where I'd put it. I'd put it in the right line anyway, you know.
Okay.
The other discussion, which is another tough one, is what do you want to do about a copier? Because this is the budget that it goes on. And, you know, without getting into the Cadillac lines of copiers, I mean, the copiers now can do everything, they make copy and, you know, and there's no limit to what copiers can do. But looking at this from a conservative, moderate set of eyes and say, all right, you know, we don't need the low end, but we don't need the high end either. You know, it looks like if you bought one, it's gonna cost you about $8,000 for a copier.
Is that with the contract?
That's purchase of the equipment.
But I thought we were talking about leasing one, that's
That, I just said, if you bought one.
right.
Okay. That would give you a color copier, but very limited color copy. It wouldn't be a, you know, it wouldn't be a print. Variety.
You don't want everyone to be able to print.
It would have, yeah, but it would have devices on it, so that you couldn't print, not everybody could print color, unless you went through a system to allow that. I have found out over the years that color copiers are just too much, too,
Keep buying color tone, because everybody wants to print color. and
they
then-
print color because it looks good, not because they need to. So you have to put codes on it, you have to get clearance to use color. That's what it is. I mean, I don't want to use the word permission, but that's what it is. Okay, you gotta get it, because if you don't,
Waste of money.
you know.
We're set up that way.
Most people, a lot of people now will do the lease purchase, okay? Will purchase one over a 3-year period, and, you know, interest rates are really low. There's certainly that opportunity. That copy you got should win an award, because it's 2008. And if you know, I mean, some of you who hang around there know that thing is going all day. Everybody in that whole building prints off that copy. There's no printers. So it, you know, upstairs prints off it, downstairs prints off it.
Why don't we buy a cheap printer, cheap
You
enough
get
and tie
chippers
them
at
into the
25
network?
bucks at
Yeah,
Walmart.
that's right.
It really is. I can't believe that it hangs as well as it does, and works as well as it does. We've had, since I've been there, we've had 2 service calls on it, and one of them was, the drum was, you know, just totally worn. But,
I mean, when you can go up to Walmart and for $90, you can buy a combination printer, scanner, copier, fax machine. They probably won't hold up if anybody was using them 8 hours a day. But if we've got a half a dozen PCs in that town hall, you know, for $500, you could hook a printer to each one.
but
and
your ink would cost you a fortune.
Yeah, the ink
Ink
is
is
the bigger
very
expense.
We're printing for like
Yeah.
half a cent a copy, you know, I mean, because they're all toner based, you know, I mean, we outlawed them. I don't argue with you often, but we, in the school systems, we said we're taking all desktop out. And we worked them out of everybody's teaching room, everybody's office, everything, and made everybody go to, you know, to centralized copiers because the price per copy was, you know, out.
Really, you know.
But
But you could still get a, you know, a laser printer that, you know, for $300-400, maybe less than that. It's a lot cheaper per paper, and just make it a, you know, grayscale, you know, black and white print, essentially white printer,
the key to copying is the price per copy.
but. You can white ink.
That's the key, you know, in my eyes, I mean, and that's,
We need a special encoder.
that's your target all the time when you go out and do contracts with copying companies, you focus on the price per copy, that's where you save your money.
Could you use the old one? I mean,
The plan
Others
would be, if it lasts, we'd put it upstairs
Yeah,
on the
that's
fire
what I'm
department, you know, and let it die a natural death. And fix it only to the point of minor repairs and then make a motor anchor. You can, there's no crisis, it's working. The crisis is playing the odd game. I can tell you, without sounding threatening, because I don't want to be sound threatening, but if that breaks tomorrow, before the end of the day tomorrow, we'll have to have another copier in there. You know, I mean, that's how crucial, because remember, everybody that comes into the counter has stuff, you know, faxed in and shipped in, and they'll say, oh, I didn't bring this, and, you know, they'll dial, and they'll get sent in automatically, and it's part of the everyday tool of registration. So, we couldn't get by, you know, an 8-hour shift without it. And again, that sounds threatening, but
so for this budget, I mean, if we were gonna lease purchase, I mean, are you building something in to do that?
I haven't.
You haven't, but you recommend we
I've
should?
called Gorham Savings,
Yeah.
okay, only because I know that Gorham Savings is a big municipal, you know, lease company.
Yeah.
I called them actually on the ambulance, because I just was curious to see, you know, when we deal with that purchase, whether we wanna finance it or pay it outright. And I wanted to make sure that Toby Cook and Rick Rannigan were still in the municipal leasing business, and you know, rates would be, in some cases, under 2%. You know, that's, they're running, depends on the duration of the loan. But municipal rates are pretty cheap right now. A lot of companies, Canon, you know, or the Xerox themselves, run their own lease purchases.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's a package deal, it's like going to the Chevrolet garage and do it all under one roof, you know.
1-800 number, whether
Right,
it's
exactly.
Xerox.
Which has its value.
They're in within, fees at our plant, they're in within half an hour, 45 minutes.
I was gonna say, if you do it through the manufacturer, is it possible to get any kind of a lease program with a maintenance,
Generally, that's how it
Clause.
works.
Yeah.
so that you're paying them a monthly rate, but it covers the maintenance as well as paying?
All the service calls, everything, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't
one-
think you can
one
lease
price
without the
deal.
service call.
right,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
yeah.
would just hate to ignore this and then, and have, you know, it'd be September and you're out there scrambling and renting one and everything else to, you know, get, because that's what we do, we have to rent one immediately, you know.
So what do we do for this budget? What would you recommend that we do?
I would give me a, you know, a day or two to at least get some ballpark figures on what,
On the lease?
you know, what an 8,000, you know, a middle price copy would cost lease purchase. Don't sign any contracts, don't do any of that, but just budget some money to,
Right.
a ballpark to cover that, that's what I would do. You know, you haven't got time to go out there right now and negotiate, you know, a whole deal, but you could certainly get an idea what you need to budget for a 3-year lease. I would say 3 years off the top of my head, I think that's pretty common.
Sounds reasonable to me.
You get the word out, you're looking for a copy, I'll have to fight them off.
I know.
They'll be driving in here, we'll have to get the traffic cop, you know. I think everybody in their uncle has, you know, sells a
So the
copy.
traffic light, yeah.
Yeah,
So I shouldn't. post
Who'll
it
pay
to
for
Facebook.
that?
matter of
I was
fact,
gonna say, what's up with that?
I bet they're down there right now already.
Where it's at.
Somebody called somebody, I know they did.
I put it on Facebook already.
Oh, yeah, okay, good, yeah. Yeah, that's right, thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for your
Aren't you
support.
glad I'm here today?
All right. Well, there you go, that's the town office budget. That's the big one for the night.
But building maintenance, I thought you wanted to build in a few dollars to take care of the outside of the building.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did, and that's not, did I put that in there? Let me look.
the same like last year.
I did, under vehicle, under building maintenance.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mention this either. Vehicle repair, I put $500. This is what happens now. When Roger does any work on any of the vehicle, i.e. the black car that we have, he takes it, he doesn't take it out of his budget, he's too smart for that. He takes it out of this budget. It was in Jim Nagel's budget only. That doesn't make any sense. Everybody and their uncle uses that vehicle. You know, so it's no more Jim Nagel's budget than man and moon. So I just said, look, put it under town hall. I mean, it's not used heavily, but Jen took it the other day to someplace, and it was, I mean, it always gets approved, and it's not a free-for-all, but it's much more multi-use than Jim Nagel. The issue with town hall is I don't know what you're gonna do, because all I can do is shake my head. I wanted to take pictures and go around and do a slideshow and, you know, and put that little presentation together, but you folks know, I mean, I know what to tell you, walk around it and look at it. I know why it hasn't had attention, because typically what you do is when you're thinking about something new down the road, you say, let's not put, you know, a lot of money into something that, you know, eventually is not gonna be here, but that eventually, I mean, if you signed a contract today to do something 3 years away, 4 years away, can you imagine what that place will look like in 3 or 4 years if you don't put some money into it? I mean, I'm trying to stay away from adjectives like disgraceful and things like that, but it's getting there. I mean, not only does it need a scrubbing, it needs, you know, at least a coat of paint and the halls and, you know, I mean, you haven't got to remodel the thing, but.
Every time I look at it, I feel like I need a tetanus shot.
Yeah.
I'd be careful about how much dirt I scrub away.
I might be holding the building together.
It's got a critic problem.
Might be scrubbing the back of somebody's chair.
Oh, that's
There you go, they do run across your desk once in a while.
Let's have a clean town hall.
But somebody's gotta take the bull by the horn and say, okay, you know, we're gonna minimally, you know, try to fix this. I mean, doors don't work, locks don't close, I mean, you know, it's.
Should
I don't
I
wanna
even
sound like a
bother,
drama queen, but.
should I even dare ask on how things are looking for, proposal for the new town hall location?
You can ask.
Yeah.
The answer's not good.
I have
So,
to,
that's the same as it's been 4 years ago.
Well, no,
They're working
No,
out.
yeah,
I'm
we
in the
were
middle of
working
two
progress, and then
conversations.
when Todd left, you know, we kind of, you know, Jack has kept the communication lines open, but.
I have a meeting next week with 2 people, different.
We've looked at some different properties, we've had people come to us and say, hey, I've got properties, and, you know, we had one piece of property that we decided it's just not feasible, it's too expensive, another one, we figured it was just too expensive to do work to get in there, so I mean, it is active and we are looking at it.
I want to find my own notes. that I
Help
have.
a lot further along than what it was.
And it's gonna, it's a priority for us.
Yeah.
In fact, when we interview new town managers, we let it know that's a priority, so whoever comes on board knows that that's something we wanna explore with some speed. The building's awful, you know, I don't know how we maintain it, I don't know how the people we have stay there in that environment. I mean, as long as they have, it's amazing.
So Jack, do we have, you know, a ballpark figure on,
I was just looking through my notes, I think I put this in a little note here, down the road, and,
town hall beautification?
town hall maintenance, 2 talks regarding building needs, blah, 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 blah. Also needs to be clean, but rather than I would consider increasing the current maintenance run from 6,000 to 10, and at least address some of the needs. You're gonna you're gonna need a guy like Jason, or, you know, to spend, you know.
Oh, look at me.
3 or 4, with those skills,
You
come
wanna
up and
volunteer
fix
to
the siding, the roof is, a tin roof is all lifted up, you know, put the shutters on or take them off, I mean, to do something, I'm not saying, you know, go into majors, but it won't take long to eat up an extra $4,000 of labor.
Paint job alone,
Huh?
paint job alone would be set, $4,000.
I would recommend like a Certa Pro, you know, one of those big companies that hires college kids for summer break, and that's gonna be your best bet. You come in there and paint that whole building for $3,500 probably.
Fix doors that, you know, that don't lock, and,
In a couple of days.
Yeah, they'd show up with 15 kids, and
Yeah. It's
they can actually even paint the roof.
That
I've
was
seen them
it.
paint
Paint
that
the
metal
shutters.
roofing.
And paint the shutters too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
you
don't-
pull the shutter out, you see the paint.
So is it the idea to go from 6,000 up to 10,000 on building maintenance then?
That would cover paint. If you had doors and stuff that had issues, and locks that weren't locking, and windows that aren't opening, does it go that far, or?
oh yeah. Windows that don't
Windows
close.
Even better.
The problem is, guys, it's endless. It's just like, you know that. You took an old house and you start, once you start, you know, it doesn't ever stop. You open up one avenue to another avenue to another. It's, you know, we've all lived and done that, but if you just say, well, we're not gonna be here long and just keep not doing anything, you know, there's some community pride gotta be involved in this a little bit. I mean, when you walk by and the sign flapping in the breeze, you know, that's not the particular image that I,
So maybe we, you know, we up that by 4,000 and then prioritize exactly what we're gonna do, or 5,000. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna do everything, can't do everything this year.
that's another plan, that's another presentation for you. Say, okay, you're 4 years away or whatever, you know, what are you gonna do?
You need to think about the wind blowing through the windows in the winter too.
Yeah.
True, I guess. Papers blow up your desk.
especially if they don't close.
They don't,
No, that's what I'm saying, if they don't close, then.
well, the whole
it's
room,
late that way to come through.
combination, room and combinations, remember that, I think that's the term, isn't it? Remember? Room and combination, remember? I'm dating myself. That was a big thing, boy, we got those at home.
You want to date yourself, I graduated in that code enforcement office.
Really?
My graduation was in that office. That
Was
was
it
an
two of you?
open hall with a stage on the back wall.
What was it, two of you that graduated?
No, we had a hell of a crowd, I think there was 16 or 17.
Well, you was in top 20. I bet you've been telling that for years, I'm top 20 in my class.
It's
All right,
only
I'll-
16, but that's all right.
Put that in your thought process, I'll beef that up, make it a 10, and at least get some of the things, but I would definitely ask for a plan for the next couple, 3 years.
Yeah, there should be a list of.
Well,
what
you
needs
know,
to be done.
if we're gonna bump that up, we're gonna have to have some items here, because it's gonna come up at town hall.
Some
and we'll-
allocation for,
And we're gonna have to make sure that we have
Right.
some good answers and say, hey, this is why, this is what it needs, so we'll need some of the critical things for town meeting, because I know.
Fix the shutters, fix the windows, fix the siding, tack the roof back down, maybe paint the hallway, you
Yeah.
know, and honestly, you clean. And I'm not talking about your Friday afternoon, you know, yeah. Okay, enough said. I will do that. To start with it. All right, thank you. Let me blow out a little steam on that subject. Most of the rest of this
Planning board is pretty
is
straightforward.
not anything that's gonna knock you out of your seat, I don't think.
Advertising and printing has gone from $500 to $1,000 on the planning board.
Yeah, and that's simply because what they have in store for changes and you can probably express it better than I can, but most of their anticipated changes have to be publicly
Yeah.
expressed, right? I mean,
Well, they'll be, you know, they're working on ordinance change, they're not gonna be ready for June. They're trying to put together some things for June, but it looks like the majority of it will be later on in the year, so they'll have to be advertising all that stuff.
Anybody else have any questions in regards to the planning board? It's pretty simple.
Yep.
Media boards, town committees.
They didn't meet. That's a good thing.
they've never used that budget lately. We did nothing but reprint it. You gotta have something in there.
No?
That's good.
Same thing with appeals. Same about you've had since Phil graduated from school, I think, Phil.
We didn't have an appeal board then. We didn't have a planning board. You just went and did what you wanted.
He had a gun.
You had a gun and a knife.
Yeah.
I'm planning to use it again.
All right, civil services.
The only one that increased slightly and actually, it wasn't exactly 6, it was 5,000. I just calculated that today, the animal welfare had a slight increase in it. $280 increase or something, and I just put the 6 in, but, and I do have the backup on that if we need it. That's really the only change that was done there. We haven't changed the animal control officers compensation, I think, for years and years, but seems to be working, so.
Anyone else on civil services? Cemeteries. Same as it ever was.
This was my answer to this today, because this is how this works, as you know. It rings a little bit of a comment that I made earlier. Public Works usually does all of this, and then they bill it out of their budget, okay? So that it doesn't draw down their budget. And Lisa said, do you think we ought to change that? And I said, no, Roger can eat the rest of it. If it goes over, Roger can eat it, not his budget, so. But they do put a lot, I mean, I'm not saying he isn't doing it right, but, you know, I mean, but as far as, if it goes over a little bit, Roger's still gonna mow the cemetery, so that's the bottom line. Okay.
Miscellaneous.
I asked about the contingency account, because that's always something that intrigues me and how that works. Yours is interesting, yours is the cash flow currently. Good example of that would be the cottages, the tip program,
Yeah.
new cottages. What's the full name?
Seasonal,
Cape
Arundel.
Cape
Cape
Arundel,
Arundel.
Cape Arundel
Yeah,
seasonal.
okay. What happens is, we pay a lot of, some of the bills, and then the bills are billed out, and the contractor reimburses. If you're a leaser or an accountant, that's fine, but it's gotta come out of somewhere. You know, we don't, you know, and pay that fuel account, you know what I mean? So she uses this account, so it'll draw down, and then it'll get reimbursed and come back up. So that's how you're using that right now, as a method of in and out kind of a account. Because the first words out of Lisa's mouth is, where's it come from? Which is,
Yep.
that's the right question. Yep. So that's how you use that.
We got enough here to pay Eaton.
Seems to be. Pay what?
Eaton Peabody, do you get a bill from them yet?
No,
None?
I haven't budgeted, I don't know, we're gonna do, take it legal, I guess,
This
huh?
account?
I think we gotta take it out of contingency.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
or you could take it out of town manager's salary,
True.
get divided.
That's right.
Oh. That slipped out. I thought I'd say it, because I know Jason would think.
Ain't really much left.
Professional services. Everyone's all set with miscellaneous. Professional services.
Professional services,
Look at that legal.
back to
Is that enough?
I know.
You know what? I'm looking for guidance on this one, because,
That'll be a monthly thing for Leah.
it's gonna be an incredibly tough year. And as you can see, I toyed with it a little, but I said to Lisa today, I said, these are, we really are gonna need to get some opinions on this subject. Because we're gonna have to answer that question. Somebody said that earlier about, being able to answer a question. If you you go from legal to 20 to 40, and then you folks beef it on top of that, which is not unrealistic. Be prepared to have to answer that question.
If we go over 40, if we did 40 and it goes over, and it could easily enough, where does the money come from?
Comes from special town
It
meeting.
would come out of contingency. You have some authority,
Some,
minimum authority to bum from other accounts, but this budget isn't that flush. You know, you're not, you know, there isn't a lot of things in here that, you know, you could steal from. There's always a nickel or two, but you're not talking nickels, you're talking dollars and big ones, so. You'd go back to town meeting, probably. Is that what you just said?
yeah, just like Kenny Court did with defending the beach access case, $500,000.
So what are we expecting?
And you get more than one, you know.
Yeah.
You got more than
Probably
one.
more like triple.
Okay, what are we expecting for the legal to go up by?
There's no way of telling.
So basically, it's
Everything's
like
really
we
kind of
kinda-
in infant stages. We know what to some degree, we know what the parameters of the claims are, but we don't know where they're gonna be brought. State court, federal court, those all have impacts on the cost of moving forward.
And they keep surfacing, new ones keep surfacing.
Right.
So that you have, you know, maybe a pathway to follow and potential conclusion, you know, that generates another round.
We're gonna have to look at, I think, though, is if we got public officials liability coverage, some of those claims may be covered by the insurance policy.
We do have it.
Yeah, we do, I mean, yeah, it's $8,000, right?
Yeah.
But I think we ought to investigate, once the claims are brought, whether we've got some coverage there.
One of the things that I did do was only because I learned this, and I can't remember, I remembered it, but I did, is to notify our insurance carriers of all of this,
Yep,
as a first notification.
good idea. Don't give them an opportunity to say you didn't let us know. That's all they,
Yeah.
that's all they need to have.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know what to tell you, I really don't. I mean, if you look at the other lines, there's nothing in here at all. The audit went down, it's actually 69 something. I researched that today. Engineering, that's up, because you have other conflicting community projects right now, other than the one everybody's been, you know, thinking about and referencing. And some of them are requiring us to have third-party engineering reviews, et cetera. We currently have a bill that's not, we shouldn't pay, that is not being paid. So that will, then you have to start balancing, do you pay the bill or do you dig into your legal fees?
Those costs aren't covered by the developer?
Some developers are refusing to pay the bill,
Okay.
and then you have to make that decision. $1,200 bill, $2,000 bill, engineering services, you pay it and put it to bed, or do you, you know, say, no, it was, you know, you need to pay it, and that was the plan, and, but if the contractor doesn't see it that way, or the developer doesn't see it that way, and these are ongoing.
Can a municipality do a lien on? Is that the?
You do it, I mean, not a lien, but you have to go through the court process to attach, but you can certainly do that, but it's $1,200 is not worth That's the problem. Costs you twice that to do it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's much more to this business than meets the eye, you know?
So for the sake of the budget, I mean, I think, for legal fees, we'll leave it at 40, and
Yeah.
if it needs to go more down the road, we'll push that down the road when the time comes, but I couldn't bump that up any higher than that.
But to your point though earlier too, I mean, we need to have an explanation for that.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, anyway.
I'll bring
Yeah,
the Journal Tribune, the Portland Press Herald, the
Yeah.
Kennewood Post, I'll bring all that.
We'll grab those articles and we'll bring them, and we'll say, here you go, here's why.
You're gonna have to be real careful about that.
yeah.
I know, we'll have to prepare
Yeah,
something.
we're gonna have to be real careful about that. We're already experiencing what, can happen, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, it's, whether you're in Fort Cannon, Kittery, it's discouraging. When you look at a budget as tightly as we have, as conservative as we have, and I mean, this is not a very elaborate, budget, as you know, and then you sit there and you talk about, well, should you buy $1,000 computer, so that people can have put to work on.
Do the work.
And then the next subject, and you.
You get 20 grand worth of legal fees,
Yeah.
extra.
Okay.
I'm a realist.
How close are we to a bottom number here? Being able to see it all?
close yet.
Nothing at all.
No. We get closer all the time, and we have to, and that's why I had
Well,
to-
it's gonna have to be by the 23rd, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we are losing Lisa after the 23rd.
You have some questions or something?
I do, which, more or less a little report to you, because it fits right into what Jason just asked. The question I have for you is, how do you manage your capital budget? That doesn't seem to be aligned in your budget. What seems to be aligned is in your debt, and we'll bring that up next time. You put money into reserves, which I think is what doubles as your capital budget. For example, public works, let's just take that one. Okay. Roger talked to you about buying a rubber tired excavator, remember? And that's not in his budget.
Right, so
Capital
capital,
It's right. So, in a case of the existing reserve, you budget money to put into those lines traditionally.
yeah,
And then you use those as financial resources for items to purchase, quote, outside, I don't mean outside the budget, but outside of the individual department line. That's a better way to express it.
I.e. buy an excavator.
Yeah.
Wheeled-
I'm sorry.
I.e. buy a wheeled excavator.
Yeah.
That's how we.
Right, that's why I use that one for example. So, the trick is making sure that I put contributions into those lines, correct? And then your trick is to determine if that is enough money in that line for Roger to buy the excavator out of. Is that,
yep,
okay?
I thought it was always the department heads presented what they were looking for to go into capital.
But pretty much, and then, with some expectations of the type of equipment they were gonna need, or thought they were gonna need down the road, so. like the ambulance or.
Right.
You know, we fund it, and once you find it, and we won't have enough money to pay for it at that point in time. That was the kind of plan, I think.
It shouldn't be a guessing game though, Jack, it shouldn't be.
No, it looks to me like it's been a pretty steady contribution,
Yep.
a flat contribution. You know, most of them get 50,000,
Yep.
you know, that goes into it. Because people kept talking to me about capital, and I kept saying, we don't have a capital budget. You really have a reserve budget.
It's a reserve.
For capital projects.
For capital, right, exactly. Okay.
Exactly.
And I got it, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't,
There you go.
I wanted to make sure I had on the right page. The reason this all came up is the TIF. All right, that has to be one of the most complicated concepts to figure out in the United States. And I understood the basic concept of a TIF, but when you start thinking about how to work it into a budget process, it's not easy. So this is what the plan is. I don't even wanna try to do this on common sense, because common sense says to me, for example, you are looking to purchase roughly $200 and some odd thousand worth of fire equipment in next year's budget. A brush truck and UTV, okay? And the prices on that, I mean, these are just rough. Now, remember, you're not purchasing anything, you're just using numbers to hold places. Whereas 178 for a brush and 22 for, okay. Whatever. Common sense management, not knowing the technical component, would be you would need to budget that as an expenditure. And you'd have a TIF line under your capital reserve, we'll say, another line. And you would, you know, you would say that that's where this is gonna, expenditure's gonna come from. The money is coming in from, in this case, this is the CMP TIF. We're not even talking about the cottages, that's gonna be another generation, okay? And then you'd say, all right, under the revenue side of your budget, and let's use round numbers, let's say your TIF expenditure for this first year, you got a 3-year plan. I've learned a fair amount about it. Third-year plan's about $200,000, so what you would do is you would show somewhere in your budget a $200,000 expenditure, and on the revenue side of your budget, you'd budget the TIF coming in, so it's a wash. Now, the bad part about that is it inflates your gross total budget. If your budget was $10 last year, it's gonna be $12 this year. Even though the revenue's coming in there, but for people who do the bottom line budget, oh, the budget went up from this to this, on the expenditure side, it will show as an increased expenditure. Our trick would be to say, yes, but that is being washed away by the TIF income. And I'm using pretty simple terms, but I'm doing it for me, not for you, okay? So we had a roundtable discussion today, okay, well, how do you manage that? How does that end up in town report or in a warrant article? And, you know, how does it show in I want this, by the way, when I leave, okay? I mean, this is covered with me, okay? Don't you even think that, you're not gonna leave that for you. But, and nobody had the answer. So, this is what I did. I called the auditor, and the auditor's coming down Tuesday at 9:30, and we're gonna put Simone and Jack and Tad and Lisa in a room, and anybody else that wants to be there, and we're going to have TIF instruction on how to take what I just explained to you into the reality of a document. Because I don't want to get it wrong. And I've learned by calling other people, sometimes they don't do it right. So I'm thinking, all right, this is the first time you're really doing this, in my eyes, you know, to this level. We might as well get a script now of how to do it and get it to be correct. So, you know, I think I know, but it's like, I think I can, I think we need to figure out how that's gonna be actually in those documents that end up being town meeting documents.
It's a smart move, get the accountant and set it up right from the start.
That's all I could think of is, you know, Taz got his opinion, you know, Simone's got her opinion, they're probably all right, I'm not saying that, I got my opinion. But I don't think you should do this by opinion. You let the auditor say,
Yeah.
this is how the format be, because you've got TIF 2 and TIF 3, you know, coming out. And you've got the cottage TIF stuff. So this is gonna be part of your future here for a while as you deal with this, and it's also gonna be part of the community's understanding. They're gonna see this TIF, you know, flow of money.
Seasonal cottages, TIF's gonna be even more
Much
confusing.
more common.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we had to create a separate account
We do.
strictly for TIF.
We do.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
reason is because the TIF money is exempt from showing that increase in your budget so that it doesn't affect your
It may.
school financials.
Right, we don't, the evaluation,
Right.
okay, is not taken into calculations for such things as, school budgets and.
Right.
But you still have to show your expenditures.
I would think, someone's gotta prove that. Maybe not, maybe the TIF vote itself, there's one theory that the TIF vote covered it, and actually it doesn't even have to go back to selectmen. I mean, that it can be, it can be actually managed outside of the regular budget process. If that's true, then that, you know, we'll find that out.
I thought that was the case. Remember there was that special account that she kept referencing? And I questioned her on it because it sounded, the account name sounded as if it was like a.
Is that a girl named Sonia?
Yeah. Shauna.
From Bernstein Shore?
Right,
Yeah.
she was our counsel.
Well, I may take what I learned from the accountant, or from the auditor, and you know, I may run it by her. But the auditor's gonna do the books, right? And the auditor's a lot cheaper than the attorney. Sorry, Tom. And,
I'm not sure.
I figure that's where I'd start.
Yeah.
Just one vote.
All right, because honestly, that's something you don't want to get found out. Because it is intertwined with a lot of,
It is interesting, because we're gonna have to approve an expenditure at the board level,
you would think, would you?
I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it just can't happen.
It just can't happen,
It's
you
gonna have to
know,
come
when you
to
write a
us.
check, and it's gotta be approved by the board of selectmen at some point, so
Right.
it ought to be reflected.
Now, it may be approved in the budget process.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We may have a line that says this amount of money is, you know, in the
Right.
TIF line, and it, you know, and that may be what's done. But here again, I
But
need
the
to
actual
know,
expenditures
right,
might have to be approved at the board, at the board level.
right.
Because you just can't go willy-nilly and say you wanna
Yeah.
go buy, you know.
Because nobody has any authority on the board to do that.
Right.
I mean, the TIF didn't give, you know, the planner, or didn't give anybody else the authority to expend the funds for whatever the project.
Right.
So it's gotta be the board, but the question is whether, somebody's suggestion, whether the TIF agreement's enough, that we got the authority from it, because that was approved by the town.
but it goes back to the town,
Right.
all of those things.
Right.
It just seemed to me that there were too many what-ifs here,
Yeah.
and that I wasn't. And I thought about, there are a lot of people do TIFs, I thought about calling Ellsworth and you know, Calberry or whatever, but every one of them is a little quirk to it, and has some peculiarities. And like, as you know, the TIF for the cottages is much more convoluted than the TIF for CMP. So you want somebody giving you, well, this is how I did it, and it doesn't fit your circumstance.
Mhm.
I'll do what I can, I'll do the best I can. Anyway, you're going to have in the CMP TIF a grand total of about $200,000 to utilize. It's less than was originally expected. And I do know why. When the TIF was first constructed, it was constructed on CMP data, because it was, I'm talking about the CMP data, obviously. And the valuation of the CMP lines and et cetera, and that's your basis for your TIF. It sounds like I know what I'm talking about, but what nobody realized is that the CMP lines were valued as all-inclusive. That every line in town was lumped into one lump. So when they used the value of that to do the TIF, they were actually using lines that weren't part of the new construction. Okay? And just say they have 10 lines in town, and you look at the CMP's literature, it says value for 10 lines. But only 6 of them were new, but it was all lumped together. Cat figured that out not too long ago, since I've been here. They can go to CMP and say, oh, you gotta break them out. Okay. For them, they would just, pay the taxes on all of their lines. And they know, we gotta have these broken out. So we have to get a hold of Bernstein and Shaw and amend that, et cetera,
So is that just a 345 line, or is it a 345 and 115 line? Is it just a new line they put up?
just a new
Just
line.
a new line, the 345.
345 line.
Which is about a $43,000 a year revenue,
Mhm.
which was less than the 80, which you might have thought originally.
There was some discussions about early on, the value was higher, and then when we did the TIF, before we did the TIF, they realized that the value would be less. But then I thought Tad had came back and said, it actually went up a little bit. Maybe that's why, maybe because they included the 115 line.
Well, I think what Jack's talking about, including the 115 line, means that the baseline is higher, so the increased value from whatever the 345 line brought about is smaller, so the TIF is smaller. I think that's what's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The total
So
value
you take
was
those 115 lines out, then the value's gonna
gone,
go.
right? We haven't spent any money, so you're not, just Christmas isn't gonna be quite as big as you thought it was gonna be, from that perspective. Which means that your planned expenditure also, but you gotta do this in a bond, you know that, right? Obviously, you gotta bond all of this money.
I thought we could pay if we wanted to. I think we can.
That was the discussion. We had a discussion whether you could pay it or bond it.
Right now, maybe, if you say so, I have not heard that.
Yeah, because as Jason's saying, we were advised that the money's gotta be segregated
Yep.
and dedicated for the purposes outlined in the TIF. And if we had the money, other communities were relying on getting the money over time, or wanted the equipment immediately, or whatever in the world they were gonna do. And then would bond it and pay for the bonding costs out of the TIF on an installment basis. But we were thinking that just pay. Why pay the bond, interest, et cetera, if we got the money?
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't, that's never been run across,
It's
my
there,
thought
why-
process. I've heard bond from day one, but remember, I'm learning. It's a learning curve for me, and I'm trying to pick it
We're
up.
guessing there too.
Quick as I can.
It's new for us, so.
What's that?
We're
New
guessing too.
for us,
it's
that's
all-
our first tip, so.
And it may come to pass that you do another refresher workshop on this with
Sean?
you may, once you get into it, but if, I asked the question very honestly today, selfishly, he said, why don't you just hold off on this and not do it this year? Not, I was trying to escape it.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay. And you could. The downside of everything is on this is that you actually were eligible to do it last year and didn't. So that would be the second year you would escape it.
Mhm.
Two, cost of your purchases, you know, you get less free money every year as things go up. That's always part of the discussion. And three, if there was a bond involved, remember, that's been, I mean, this is the cheapest money ever.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's why Tad and others have said, Jack, you need to at least try to tackle year one if you can. I'll keep working on it. Okay.
Well, what's in there now? Do we know? What's in there in that TIF account?
I don't think there's anything.
I think it's a submitted, I think we have to present what we want.
Oh, for purchases?
No,
Oh, for money?
Yeah,
I think there's an anticipated revenue, I saw the printout of it's about $43,000 a year. And I don't think you've got any in there
no,
yet.
we haven't not a year yet,
Right.
right? June would be a year.
And here again, the bond, that money would be paying on your bond. And the bond money would be buying, you know, the items in year 1, 2, and 3, in theory.
Right.
What you're saying is you budget for items 1, 2, and 3. And like item 1 this year, let's take that for example. Item 1 this year, as described earlier, is about $200,000 purchase. You only have 43,000.
We're gonna go 43 then, if we're gonna buy it this year, we got, yeah,
Sure.
we got a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
But if we decide to get the UTV instead, it's $22,000.
And 22 left.
Mm.
Right.
It wasn't around when this was all built.
I mean, it makes sense to go after the brush truck now anyway, rather than, to me.
What's awful easy is not spending the money. Cause that's, you know what I mean, and I'm not a spender, you know that, but the whole concept of what this was designed for was for you to get things that you normally couldn't afford in a budget. I mean, it's not as basic as what it is. So if you say, let's not do it, you know, what are you really accomplishing here, you know?
Well, I mean, we have to do something.
Yeah.
We just can't leave that in there.
I bring it up, I do have the data, yeah. $40,340, and it's on the revenue slide some, but it's all just about $43,445.09. Check it out, that's what I was looking for earlier when I was talking about your reserves, and I've given you some copies of this along the way, and that's got your reserves in it.
No, it's not much longer than 5 years.
I'm like, I just gave you this, I think, I gave it to you only because you asked a question, and I had on my notes to get back to you, I might have been even a couple of meetings ago, but it's the fuel and fire department fuel printout. And I don't have any comments to make or anything, but you said to me once, we got any indication on what we've, you know, spent, and I remembered that, and so I just give you that. We can do that on any account, you know. It's not uncommon for me to say, okay, so where do we stand on this, or where do we stand on that? I mean, like I said, I could bury you with these, but when you ask something specific like that, I try to get the answer to you. How we doing?
And, so you were all done with new business?
Yeah, that's all my little added attractions.
All right. Next meeting date is gonna be Monday the 20th, next Monday.
That's a holiday, but I'm sorry to do this, but this is a situation that
That's my birthday, so I want cupcakes or something.
I give you a cupcake.
You are a cupcake.
Someone call for me.
Turn the camera off and.
There's no frosting on the roof.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll blew out a long time ago.
Just icing.
I hope I was at least a little bit clear with you tonight, because I'm a little shaky on this stuff.
You can't have too much left, right?
Now, I got a list, I think I sent that out to you too. We got,
So we have 2 meetings next
2
week?
meetings left, we'll figure out, I don't know if I have it with me, yeah, I do have it with me. What? We gotta talk about debts and reserves and that line of it as well. Didn't I give you a piece of paper that said this is what we'll do on this day, this is what we'll do on this day?
I think maybe that was in the email.
Yeah, maybe. Saving the 23rd for maybe Beth. At some point, this has to go to Beth, who has got to give you the impact of all of this, and bottom lines, et cetera, but, what Beth tells me, probably told some of you that have asked, last year was not a big year for valuation increase. This year actually looks better already, which is,
That's gonna help.
you know, doesn't have to be much. She said last year was the year of the sheds, that's what she called it.
Year what?
Year of the shed. Everybody built a shed. You know, I think she's trying to tell me ahead of time, don't look for any great big pots of gold, you know? It's getting easier.
We still haven't decided on what percentage increase we want to offer to employees. That's still hanging out there, I think.
That's why we need to get to the bottom end as soon as possible, we can decide that, for sure.
Sorry, one more time?
We still haven't decided on a percentage increase from wage increase to employees. It's still hanging out there. Everything we've done thus far is assuming 3%.
I think no matter where the budget goes, we need to do something for our employees to keep them interested, regardless.
It's a pretty good crew, boy. I mean, it really is. I found that out more recently when it started to fall apart, you know, not for anybody's fault, you know, individually, but we thanks to Jason, actually,
What are we talking
I'm meeting. You know, it's valuable about, you know, calling for help, 'cause, you know, and everybody hears you, and right now have a Friday night meeting with a potential lady who works in a municipal office, who will be willing to moonlight. You know, we won't get 8-hour coverage, but we're okay with that. You know, we got, you know, we just need not to fall too far behind. And if we can get that quote booster shot, that would be, help us, you know, that's another expense for you that you're looking at, but if that works out, she is interested, she is in a municipal finance office currently. So, and I've talked to a couple times, where Lisa and I are gonna meet with her on Friday, go over this software, you know, see what we can do. That might help. We're looking at 6 weeks probably. For there's some work to be done at home. One of the biggest challenges for me has been, I'm pretty good at looking at numbers and, making decisions on whether that's reasonable and doing all that management type stuff. And problem has been Lisa's never done a budget, you know what I mean? And so it's, not only is it not my budget, it's, we don't have her as, as a foundation. I'm helping her.
Mhm.
She can put it in the machine, thank God for that.
Well, she's learning.
Ah,
She's learning.
she is. She is. And taking ownership, which is nice, We've got a lot of encouraging.
Okay, looking to take a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor?
My attention span does not. so.
All those opposed can stay here?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.